so far away from home, in this desert of regrets. Never thought that I would have to let you go.
Hello, and welcome to How to Have a Better Life When You're Dead. A discussion between Mike Marable and Jurgen Ziewe, two out-of-body travelers who venture into regions you may encounter after you transition from physical life, what some call death. Some of these are the areas reported in near-death experiences. We say, have a better life, because life continues, and the moment you die to this world, you will find yourself in another reality. Between them, Mike and Jurgen have over 75 years OBE experiences to talk about. I hope you enjoy their conversation.
Even if you don't love me, even if you don't love me.
Hello everybody. This is the second part of our conversation between Mike and myself. Let me tell you a little bit more about Mike. Mike has been astral traveling for more than 25 years. And what fascinated me about his experiences is that he can sometimes immerse himself in them for many hours and bring back enormous detail and a wealth of information. Just listen to what he has to say about one of his experiences where he was on an astral farm where he met children practicing manufacturing farm animals via their power of thought. Just listen to this.
So I'm walking around and I see all these animals, and some of the kids had created like their own versions of what they think animals look like. Mm-hmm. And one of them had created a giant, like it looked like a giant panda bear. Yeah. And they were all tickling it was the size of a full-size human. Yeah. And it was laying on the ground and they were tickling it. And so I laughed at that and I walked on, and then there were all these dogs, and I go, look at all the dogs. Hey, dog. And the dogs all came over to me, and they were like, I started petting them, and then more and more showed up. Oh, look, there's a human. He's petting us. And then they sort of enveloped me, and a small black horse came over. Yeah. And it's like they had me encircled, and they were like, pet me, no, Yeah. So I was in this cocoon of these dogs, and it was incredible. It was like, oh man, think of when you go out and a dog licks your face and makes you feel good. Yeah. Multiply that by 10,
So was that a lucid dream or what was it?
Well, lucid dream, out of body, for me, they're all the same. When I have lucid dreams, I'm in, because of the number of times that you and I have gotten out, we're automatically in some kind of consensus reality. You could call it a lucid dream. I think the difference is that when you take volition over it, then you sort of collapse that scene, or maybe even move out of that venue that you're in. But I don't think that means you've left I don't think that the lucid dream is a figment of your imagination. I think it's actually its own reality. What do you think?
Yeah, so there's a fundamental thing, really. Lucid dream, out-of-body experience, and that's what I'm sort of trying to grapple with. You just said if you take control, then the dream narrative properly disappears. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I mean is that if I want to switch out of that scene, when I say control, I don't mean that I'm lucid. I mean that I can get out of any of these scenes, and I either go and look for a doorway and consider it to be a portal out. I look for stairs, or I can spin on one foot and change, where I am. But we have to keep in mind that what you experience and what I experience may be different things. That we apply a template over it, that it's, what your experience is going to be like might be a reflection of your abilities and your just your expectations for it, and the same for me. When I have lucid dreams, I assume I'm in a consensus reality.
Yeah. So what I discovered when I'm in a lucid dream, and there's a very powerful narrative, okay, like let's say I'm sort of in the middle of a battlefield and people throwing tomatoes at each other, or some ridiculous sort of dream narrative, except I am aware that I'm lucid and that it is a dream. Okay, what I do then is I try to get into a here and now state of mind, minus the lucid dream. So what I do is I disrupt whatever causes this dream narrative. And the way I do it is by focusing on a here and now aspect of my immediate environment, which can be my hands or a piece of rubbish on the ground, or any single object which I focus on in a here and now. And then the dream characters and the narrative, not always, not all of it, but the fantasy aspect of that scenery disintegrates. And suddenly all I'm in a here and now consensus reality minus any dream content.
Yeah. I've heard you say that. And also I think you might have written it. So I can't remember what you said and what I read that you said. But anyway, yeah, I can tell the difference between a dream and a consensus reality.
Yeah.
And I don't really do anything like that to change it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just evidence to me, because there's no fantasy, there's no bleed in, there doesn't seem to be, the environment seems fairly stable. So I just kind of know when I'm in a consensus reality environment. And I think I just automatically go there because I travel out so much. I think I just naturally do it at night. I think I'm on autopilot. I go, and then I become lucid in one of these reality systems, which is what some people call a lucid dream. But for me, it's just, I just bring my waking awareness into it. I have non-lucid dreams that are in these consensus realities, and they play out in full. But I don't wake up thinking, oh, that was a dream. I can tell the difference. It's just in some of them I'm lucid and some of them I'm not. And here's one of the interesting things, Jurgen, is that I had to earn the right to do this. And by that, I mean, I had to stop misbehaving in these consensus realities to be able to do this. So I sort of developed and evolved through working with my own dream content and whatever just in life, so that I behave well in these realities enough so that I can get access to them. Anytime I get out of line, a guy will step forward and either, let me know pretty quickly that's not appropriate, to the point that I have actually got banned from doing it. I was told for 30 days, you cannot come back. You cannot, and not only that, you cannot have an OBE. And
that the astral police, was it?
Yeah, actually told me that. And they came in a contingent back when I had my false awakening back in my body. I was still between states. They showed up. It was like 3 of them. And they told me, they gave me this message. And I swear almost to the day now, it could be that my own subconscious believed it, but I couldn't get out for the life of it. So, I mean, I've got so many stories like this. You and I will never run out of stuff to talk about.
I need to tell you something which I found really quite alarming. I had an experience where I was in a very strange environment. It was obviously not an environment which was on this sort of earthly type of environment. I could tell, but the curious thing was I was so lucid that I could not tell whether where I was my real life and my physical life, which I knew I had, okay, was a dream. Okay, so I was stuck, and then something really interesting happened. I wanted to, it all went a little bit mad, and I thought, oh, maybe I'm suffering a mental breakdown because weird things started to happen around me, and I thought, oh, maybe I've gone mad in this world I'm in now, okay, and things are not quite right. And I doubted whether my other life on this physical world was at all real. Okay, so I thought I better phone my wife and ask her to call the ambulance. So
you were confused about which reality you were in.
I was totally confused, and it could have been either. And in my out-of-body reality, it was so incredibly real and had such coherence apart from the mad aspects which I was surrounded by, which I thought the symptom of my mental illness I was suffering. So
were you complete? I mean, do you consider yourself to be completely lucid in that scenario?
Absolutely, totally.
Okay.
Totally lucid. There was, in fact, it was so clear that I thought, oh, this is a real reality. This can't be anything else. But except I've gone mad. Okay. So
how did that feel? Did you enjoy your madness, or did it alarm you?
I was panicking. I thought, okay, I'm having a mental breakdown because things are not right. So what I did is I thought to myself, I have to phone Julia to call the ambulance and take me away and take me into a mental ward. And then I reached for my phone. In my pocket, I got the phone out, and it was one of these sort of 90s phone, one of these burner phones.
Right.
Okay. And I thought, hang on a minute, this is not my phone. And then I clicked. Okay. And then I thought, oh, this must be a lucid dream, or I must be on another level. And with that thing, I was catapulted back into my physical body, which I was in my meditation chair. But I tell you what, that was really spooky.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I've never had an experience like that, and I don't really want one, but I've never had a panicky situation where I was lucid or felt. I mean, I think it's my curiosity. Whatever shows up, I just go with. I just assume that it's all good, because I kind of consider myself to be more resourceful and stable, and more say closer to my authentic self when I'm in that self. So I figure whatever's happening there's a reason for it, and there's an interesting adventure on the other end of it, and there's always something to be learned. So I never reached that point. But when you bring up the cell phone, so I think the reason why, even though we have OBEs and lucid dreams, we have a phone with us, I think that's an adaptation of it becoming so much a part of our lives that, just like our clothes, we're not naked in these experiences. We expect to have that. We also expect to have our cell phone, but our cell phones are not real. They're not real. It's just like our clothes aren't. So sometimes you'll be walking around, you're in one outfit and then you're in another. And I think that volatility probably extends to your cell phone. So it's not a fully formed thing, Just like
No.
if you look in a mirror in these states, you don't really look like you.
No.
That none of this stuff is really stable, but it's stable for us in this reality.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention is I always carry money on me.
Oh, I do too. Yeah. Yeah. Because we're
Because
conditioned.
in case I get into a pub,
Yeah.
order a beer,
Yeah.
I always have money on me so I can pay.
I do the same thing. And, I mean, I think that's part of our conditioning. We're fair-minded people. We don't really probably like charity. We don't want to, we go in, we have a sense, you've owned a business, I've owned a business. We have respect for that.
Yeah.
But I always feel that same inclination to go ahead and pay for it.
Yes, and the thing is, of course, it's also a social conditioning, isn't it? Because we are conditioned. If we are given something, we give something in return.
I think so.
So that is quite automatic. But going back to my earlier story where I thought I was going mad, I had a very similar story where I was meditating. And then I got out of body, and I was very conscious that I had an out-of-body experience because I was walking along a corridor of which could have been a hotel or something. I was walking along a corridor, and then I went into into a place outside, and there were about sort of 20 or 30 people gathered. And I just had come back giving a talk on consciousness and dual realities. Okay. And I actually carried on with my talk, knowing exactly where I had left off before I went into my meditation room and meditated. So I then used this episode to my students who were gathered there and said to them, look, this is a perfect example that we can live in two different realities at the same time. And so I demonstrated it to them. And then I left, and I did other things because they asked questions, And the question they asked, can you do anything in this reality? And then I did some sort of conjuring trick with them, and totally blew their minds. And then and the conjuring trick was that I created a dragon, and they nearly fainted with my abilities. So I then went back after the story and went back into my meditation. And opened my eyes. I was in my meditation room.
Disappointed that you couldn't conjure a dragon.
Yes. So it's this sort of thing which is really opens a lot of room for speculation, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you and I, do you know how fortunate we are to be able to have these experiences? I mean, it's sort of like looking at a two-dimensional picture of something versus being there in it, So I can show you a picture of the Grand Canyon and nothing comes through. But if you're there, you experience it in full. And you and I try to explain these things and they come across two-dimensionally.
Yeah.
But I mean, what a get. I don't know how we earn the right to do this, to be able to have these kinds of experiences, but I'm very humble about it because, I mean, what an interesting life.
Yes, indeed, very privileged. We are so lucky to be able to look into the whole spectrum of reality. And the more we are submerged in it, the more it widens out into experiences which are almost impossible to describe.
Words like water in my hands.
Anyway, I think we stop it here and see what else happens next time we have another chat together. Okay, bye bye everybody.
Make you stay. But I